I'm joined now by our environment correspondent, Navin Singh Khadka. Navin, here we are again. We were talking about COP27, was it? A couple of weeks ago. We're now talking about COP15 in relation to biodiversity. There are 3 COPs. A lot of people don't realise that. But what are the aims of this one?
Well, basically, like we said earlier, the biggest target, the most prominent one, is about protecting 30% of land and 30% of sea. Which is largely unprotected as of now. And that means it's again biodiversity on land, on sea, and then again it's also about food security, about our future, about the survival of living things.
OK, so that's a lot, isn't it? I mean, we've seen how they were struggling in Egypt a couple of weeks ago. Are they being realistic?
Yeah, and also I should have added there, apart from those things, they're also talking about cracking down on things like plastic waste, pesticides, and also invasive species. And then also getting into details like how do we do it and how do we verify them? Yes, indeed, it's a massive, massive thing. And all questions, will they be able to do it?
It's interesting you say that, isn't it, verifying them? Because to develop ecosystems and to prove biodiversity and those close relations, I mean, that takes time.
Pretty much long, as we have seen in the past. So you see, the thing is, broadly, they had a similar one in 2010, and they had set 20 targets back then. None of them were fully met. And then very recently, if you remember, in August, they had this UN Ocean Treaty. That was supposed to protect 30% of ocean. They failed. And then now recently there was a glimmer of hope in this plastic treaty. Some hopes, but that's an ongoing negotiation. So yes.
Yeah. Now we have learned that the only time governments seem to listen is when it comes to cost. You know, maybe that's the way to get the message across. I mean, Antonio Guterres was speaking. He put a figure for economies, nations, at what, we're talking trillions, aren't we? $6 trillion.
Pretty much, yes. So you see, this thing is so when you do that, then definitely there is this concern. Now, 65% of Africa's productive land is degraded. And then on the top of that, I'm sure you know what's happening because of this drought. Desertification, 45% of Africa is suffering from desertification, which means the figure for degradation will go up. And then how is it happening? There are 2 things. Man-made, climate change. So man-made, 4 million hectares of forests disappearing every year. And then climate change, what it is doing. And there's this doom loop, you see. We need this biodiversity to fight off, not just to capture carbon, but also to safeguard ourselves from climate change. But what climate change is doing is it's destroying, degrading our biodiversity. And from there, for example, from land, you have emissions making more climate change. And as a result, this doom loop. And therefore, they're saying that there's this urgent need to protect our biodiversity. So the question is, will it happen again? Past records, not good. Will it change? That's the question.
They've got a big job, as have you. Navin Singh Khadka, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.